Hello and welcome. My name is Father William Maestri, and this is another edition of Overfed and Undernourished. Well, it was bound to happen. Just when you thought you could come safely out of your bunker or basement that you've been holding up in for the last months and months, it's no longer safe. It seems that, and it's perfectly fitting for this past year, that another dust-up or another flashpoint has arisen. Specifically, it has to do with the largely irrelevant, untimely Time magazine's selection of its Person of the Year, in this case, Persons of the Year. Once upon a time when the magazine was relevant and really meant something, it was called the Man of the Year. And that included, when we understood the English language, it included men and women, but it was referred to as the Man of the Year. Well, we had to get rid of that. And now there are those who are disgruntled about the idea of persons. So perhaps we'll have the unidentified of the year, the it of the year. Mine's greater than mine. We'll figure all of that out. But anyway, on the cover is their Persons of the Year. Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris. Now, I tried to figure out just why, given all that's happened this past year, and it certainly wasn't for participation, since they certainly didn't participate in presidential campaigning, and so I figured it had to be for notoriety, for being known for being known. And this has all of a certain segment of our society all upset that Time magazine would name these two individuals as Persons of the Year, when in the midst of this pandemic, we had so many people, first responders, and those who left their states and their families to go and assist those places that were understaffed, and they really made great personal sacrifice. I know one individual who left his family for a time and went to New York City to assist in the caring for those afflicted with the virus. And or those who have worked so diligently and hard to bring us this vaccine in record-breaking time. They thought that perhaps they should have been there. But that was swept aside, and there's a lot of people who are very upset over all of this. To use the vernacular, we ought to just chill out and let it go. Let it go. Why do I say that? Well, because it ought to be evident by now that awards, honors, accolades, they don't really mean anything anymore. I mean, that's clear. For example, the 1619 Project, which places slavery at the center and the beginning of the American experience. And it won, I believe, a Pulitzer Prize for journalism and reporting, has been roundly criticized and basically torn apart by historians on the left and on the right. We have to say left and right because we don't have historians anymore. You have to make sure that you know what ideological camp that they're in. It's not just scholarship anymore. And they have pretty much rejected it. Governor Cuomo of New York received an Emmy Award for his outstanding leadership during the virus. And I imagine that they didn't ask those in nursing homes, their families and their loved ones, to participate in the polling. But nonetheless, he got the Emmy Award. And of course, one of the events that many of us who grew up back in the 1950s and even early 60s remember was the Academy Awards. Bob Hope, Johnny Carson were two outstanding hosts. Well, in recent times, it's really degenerated into a kind of political platform for Hollywood to either celebrate itself or to let you know their latest trendy political and social philosophy, which is one of the main reasons why viewership in watching the Academy Awards has fallen so drastically in recent years. People are simply not looking at it to hear what some Hollywood type thinks about the latest political and social trends in our society. And so these awards have basically become meaningless. And that has filtered down. It's filtered down to young people, to children. It's unheard of for a child to take part in an activity, athletic, scholarly, having to do with school, or any other kind of activity, and not receive an award. They're now referred to as participatory awards. That is, if you participate, you get an award, because you can't watch other children receive a trophy, a ribbon, a cup, or some kind of acknowledgement or certificate if somehow little Susie or Johnny, more like Clarice and Bradley, have to sit there and they don't, they just don't get anything because they basically weren't outstanding and the other children were. Well, of course, this causes a great deal of trauma and it causes a loss of self-esteem, never mind the self-respect that comes from being acknowledged for having achieved something. And so we can't have that. So we have this overemphasis on everyone has to get an award. Everyone has to be recognized. Well, that is recognition inflation, which cheapens not only the award, but it, in a large sense, demeans the individuals involved. I remember as a young person, once upon a time, playing for years, Little League Baseball, Babe Ruth, and American Legion. And just about every year, our team finished second. We were always the bridesmaid, never the bride. We may have caught the bouquet, but we didn't get to throw it. Well, one year we actually won the division. And at the end of the year, we received a trophy. Believe it or not, I think I stayed up the whole night watching the trophy, making sure no one stole it. That's the kind of neighborhood I lived in. Or that it wasn't really true. That trophy meant more to me than anything in the world. All of the past disappointments and near misses and almost, that all faded away by receiving that trophy. A little trophy, about that big. Yet it might have been as tall as the Empire State Building. But it meant something. And so today, everyone has to be recognized and everyone has to somehow receive an honor of some sort. Otherwise, we can't have anyone left out. But I also think of what happens when that child makes an entrance into the quote-unquote real world and bumps up against a table or stubs their toe. In other words, they don't get the promotion, they fail a test. I'm really going to show my age. The girl he's in love with says, no, I don't care to marry you, or I'm going with someone else. What do? Often they collapse. They collapse. We've lost the notion of resiliency. Resilient is the ability to come back, to overcome. Once upon a time, if you weren't good enough to start on a team or you didn't get the award, you went out there and you worked harder. You tried to achieve. You worked on your weaknesses. You tried to make your strengths even stronger. Not anymore today. It has to be the coach or the umpire. It has to be someone doesn't like you or someone is a favorite over you. They don't recognize your ability. And you kind of move on disgruntled to something else. Resiliency is a very important thing because it's important to teach children that you can fail without being a failure. I fail every day at something, believe it or not. But I don't think I'm a failure. We all fail. But failure is not our life story if we don't let it be our life story. We bounce back. We learn. And we learn also to appreciate our limitations. To quote the great social philosopher Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, a man's got to know his limits. And in knowing our limits, we also learn to appreciate. We learn to appreciate what we have and to maximize what we have and not become disgruntled or demean others for what we don't have. And I think that that's very, very important for the development of a child into adulthood. We can't walk around all the time feeling depraved and deprived because somehow we didn't get the award. But I don't blame children, because you see, it's really not about children. It's about quote-unquote adults who are somehow reliving, especially given that generation, who somehow had to sit there and see others receive awards and they didn't get one. And they know how bad they felt. Oh my goodness, it was an awful experience. And they don't want their children to go through that. And yet it is in the struggle that the strength comes about. Ask any physical therapist. It's not the surgery, it's the therapy after the surgery that is the most important thing to recovery. And to get out there because you can't catch a ground ball and have somebody hit you 100 ground balls until you learn the mechanics and the techniques, and you work on that. Or you're not good at math. Well, you don't crumble up the paper and say math is no good and it's useless and irrelevant. You try to deal with the basics, find out what the problem is, and you work on it. That takes resiliency. And we've lost a sense of resiliency, along with really honoring achievement and excellence in all walks of life. And so I think this idea of constantly showering young people and not so young people with all of these awards is not really a reason for us to somehow go into spasms. It really is the realization of where the culture is. And that, unfortunately, some of our greatest awards that used to be highly recognized and prized and valued, that we wanted young people to maximize their talent, develop their skills so that maybe one day they could achieve that. They could be that person receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor or some award for valor or for scholarship or for athletic achievement. But today, it has become, unfortunately, as so much today, it has been subsumed into quote-unquote social goals, such as diversity, pluralism, gender, race, class issues. And it's not really about personal excellence. And we've lost a great deal with that, and so have our young people. So I hope that those of you who are all upset over the idea that kind of irrelevant Time magazine put two people on the cover and named them Persons of the Year. Ask yourself, how much does that really mean? Probably not much anymore, unfortunately. And so I'll just close by saying that to you who are watching this particular video, I'm going to offer you a virtual participatory award. It can be a ribbon, a trophy, a plaque, whatever you would like it to be. And when you gather with your friends and relatives at Christmas and New Year's, I don't guess you can show them the virtual award, but you can tell them about it and share with them so that when they're bragging about their children and their past achievements, you can brag that you received a participatory virtual award, an honor from overfed and undernourished.